You're listening to the Wait, What If podcast. Be prepared to expand your mind and question your reality. As always, your host, Kevin Sullivan.
Welcome to the Wait, What If podcast. As Kimmy Pop once, or I guess told you, yes, it's Kevin Sullivan. And with me tonight is Moses Mitzner.
Hi there.
And Savanna Steele.
Good evening.
Savanna, of course, is our futurist. Moses is, it's like par for the course for me to completely mess up your name within the first few seconds, which is weird because I've known you for a couple of years now, but Moza she's our futurist, you're our pastist, because you're the oldest one in the room.
I know.
So we got, at least we have a few things that we're going to talk about tonight, which I thought was kind of cool. We emailed back and forth. Moses usually plays the role of, yeah, but that's not really going to happen. And I play the role of, wow, did you see this? And I think Savanna kind of the same. Savannah's actually the one who has doctor before her name. So she actually... We put a mic with doctor in front of you, and then you know everything. With me, you just put a mic in front of me, and I just blah, 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 and everyone thinks I know what I'm talking about. So
I know everything until I open my mouth, and then you realize it's the truth.
Yeah. Anything new in the world of pharmacology?
In pharmacology?
Mm-hmm.
Good question. All right, here's an interesting story. This is more, this is very futuristic, but there was actually an article called "This Device Lets You Brew Your Own Drugs at Home."
I saw that. You sent that to me.
Yeah.
Make sure for this episode, there's one thing that I had trouble with the last episode. Somebody flamed me on Facebook, and I totally trashed them back. I was like, hey, if you're going to flame me on Facebook or in public, I'm like, why don't you just send me a personal message or whatever, because she said she tried to listen to the show, but it was too quiet, and it was the one that we did last with Forrest and everything.
Was it quiet? Okay.
Yeah. So make sure when you talk directly into the microphone.
Oh, okay.
Talking directly into the mic.
Make it a point to talk right in there so everyone can hear, and it'll feel uncomfortably close to it. But yeah, and you can move it around too if you want. So. All right. Sorry, Savannah, go ahead.
No worries. I don't mind getting close to it. I'm just afraid that everybody's going to hear me breathing like Darth
That could happen. And I'll just point out that it's Savannah that you hear breathing in the back. I just do it by habit now. I'm like, as Moses is talking, I was like, at least it's so dry out because it's cold. At least my nose isn't whistling.
I appreciate it.
I go to bed at night and it's just that.
And the dog.
You know, yeah.
What do you want?
You know when it's like, it's late at night and you're trying to sleep. Normally you wouldn't hear it, but it's that just slight noise and and you try everything. You're like, and then it's quiet for a second. All right. So go ahead, Savannah. Home drug kits. Yeah. What's this all about?
Yeah. Although, I mean, it at first it sounds really exciting.
Yeah.
Because it makes it kind of seem like you'll be able to.
Isn't that dangerous though?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very dangerous.
Great concept. I can make my own, pharmaceuticals, but
yes, it could definitely be dangerous. That wouldn't stop me. And you can brew. It claims that you can brew things like opiates, which obviously are illegal.
Well, you're a
probably their target audience.
You're a scientist, and I'm assuming you have some chemistry background, right?
Yes, but not enough to really understand exactly what this guy was all about whenever he kind of released this. And I don't think that he even... They kind of backtrack later on in the article and make it seem like this is more of a concept than anything that's actually available or anything that could be done. But I like the idea of it.
Which is the way a lot of this works. A lot of these like new technologies and stuff are usually just concept originally.
Yeah.
And then it's the fact that the idea is there and some of the technology is there.
Yes.
And enough time. But yeah,
hopefully not too much time because there are definitely, I mean, it would be great if you could, if somebody who maybe doesn't have access to drugs, or let's say you're in a lot of pain, and your doctor, doesn't believe you, then it would be awesome if you could just kind of fix that problem for yourself.
Well, first of all, as a medical provider, it's not that we don't believe you all the time. It's the one that comes in whose eyes are all constricted and they're on 80 different drugs and all that. And that's actually where
I think there's the chance of abuse with that.
Oh, absolutely.
That's where I think that there's a line where you have to go into the doctor to get prescriptions. And
Yeah.
that's where you,
Yeah, because what, and I don't know if they taught you this, or what they taught me in my pharmacy section of PA school was drugs. Number one, a drug is a poison. That's what it is. And at low enough doses, poison cause changes to your body that have outcomes that we're looking for. Take Coumadin, for example, a poison, right? And it literally is. I mean, that's what they give rats. It's rat poison. But at a low enough dose, it thins your blood out enough that it saves lives. Same thing with aspirin.
Yeah.
People come in all the time and I'm saying, hey, do you know what? Or back when I did family medicine, you have diabetes, you need to be on what we call an ACE inhibitor, you need to be on a statin drug, which lowers your cholesterol, you need to be on a daily aspirin. And they're like, whoa, doc, I'm not going to do any of that. Moses just dropped the camera.
sorry.
Son of a bitch. Oh, the other good news I forgot to mention is that we are now an explicit lyric section of iTunes. So I can say shit now without having to go through
Nice.
and bleep out all those shits. So that's
Fuck yeah.
that's pretty cool. So where were we? Oh yeah.
yes.
So they'll say, I'm not going to take any of that medicine. No way. I'm not, it's usually the older guys or whatever. And they're all good. I take a daily aspirin, and I tell them, I'm like, well, look at the side effects of this drug. And I used to print out the side effects of aspirin, but I wouldn't tell them. And they'd look and it would be like anaphylaxis, GI bleeding, just the list, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, that's a terrible medicine. I'm like, you're already taking it. It's baby aspirin. So these other medicines, you have to know that we're far enough along in technology, and we're refining medicine, to some extent, to the point where they're relatively safe to take. We're starting to get safer, but yeah, I digress as I usually do.
Yeah, well, I mean, to some extent, foods can be considered drugs.
Oh,
You
well,
could-
yeah,
You can definitely OD on sugar, and you can actually OD on water.
yeah. If you dilute yourself out, there was a radio show that did like a hold your wee for a wee. So stupid. It was like 10 years ago when the Wii first came out and people were drinking water and not using the bathroom so you could hold out the longest. And someone died. It like killed them. Yeah. So, yeah.
I thought there was a mom who who drank too much water.
I think that's who it was. I think she was a mom. Yeah.
same. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Did she at least get the Wii?
Her children did.
Of course, yeah.
Consolation.
Great,
There you
Mom.
go.
You left
Sorry
me a
about
Wii.
that.
At the time, it was great. Now it's a box with sticks that doesn't even work. But so now the science. I remember they were saying they were coming up with something to print 3D printing pharmaceuticals. Is it along those lines?
Actually, I couldn't tell from this article whether or not it was. There is actually a 3D printed drug now that is approved by the FDA.
Really?
So there's a company that 3D prints their drug, and that's more. So that drug it's 3D printed so that it can have the kind of dissolution properties. Whenever you swallow it, it'll dissolve in a certain way. I think that's why they 3D printed that drug.
Okay.
I was gonna
My
say-
dream.
Sorry, go ahead. No, I was just wondering why they would do that in the first place. But
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess it just has an impact on how the drug is absorbed, which is quite useful.
So so you get the supplies from the drug company, or what do you load into
No.
your 3D printed machine?
Oh, no, you wouldn't 3D print it. They're 3D printing it. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's
Right
just
now.
an easier way to manufacture.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I wouldn't say it's because, well, maybe it is ease of manufacturing.
Okay.
Is the reason they did that. I actually don't know.
Because I love the idea of 3D printing, but what always kind of turned me off about it was the idea that, all right, let's say I wanted a random thing. I want a Swiss Army knife. Mm-hmm. You can't 3D, I mean, I guess you can, but you need all the different materials, right? You can't just print it up. So same thing like, you can 3D print your own drugs, or they say at some point you'll just order something and 3D print it up, but you need the materials. So like you can't 3D print a new cell phone.
Right. As of now, you can't. And so the material question is that's a good one. So what if the materials that are required to develop your cell phone evolve such that you would be able to have maybe one sort of canister of your resin and be able to 3D print that. But then the other option is that now, I mean, there definitely are 3D printers that can use multiple materials.
Okay.
Now, whether or not, I don't know how expensive they are. They're probably really expensive, but that exists now.
Almost to the point though, where it'd be like you can fill up your living room with with basically a factory. Everything's printing as a second, and then you got to put it together. Or I could just go to the store and buy it. Yeah, it'd be like, all right, just.
At some point, like, why am I doing this?
Because it's not like you're gonna be out in the middle of the woods and be like, oh, I need this stake for my tent that I forgot to bring. Let me print one up. No, because it's all has. There's it. To me, it seems to be lacking the handiness. But I'm also the person that 15 years ago used to be like, why do I need a camera on my phone? This is so annoying. I just want a phone. And it never connected in my head how they could possibly be connected. And right now we're live streaming. We're live streaming to 2 people now, officially 2 people.
Yay.
But now we're live streaming to basically the world. Anyone can watch this right off the phone. So that's pretty wild if you think about it. Whoa.
Nope, not anymore.
Not anymore. Now it just fell in the water. All right. But it's okay because that's a Samsung. I can go underwater. One of the reasons why I own it now.
I thought you were a non-Droid person.
I was. And then I got a good price on the Galaxy 5, not the Galaxy 6. It's the S5. Yeah, it's a great phone. I love it.
Why not the 6?
$300 cheaper for the S5. Yeah. I always I had an iPhone 4. And what's that?
Yes.
4-year-old technology. So just for me to go up to last year's model on the Samsung, I feel like I've just stepped into the 21st century. So
I'm proud of you.
One thing to go back to that, when I was reading the article, because you sent it, he was using something like, he was taking microbes, and I don't know if it was something about genetically engineering the microbes so they either shit out the drugs or secrete the drugs or something, which is another crazy thing.
That's a possibility with synthetic biology. You can actually genetically engineer a bug to secrete whatever type of chemical you want.
Insulin. Aren't they doing insulin now with that or something?
I believe that's been done for many. I think that's how they make insulin.
Yeah.
And I need to go look it up again though.
Yeah, I don't, I very rarely look at the process that drugs are made. I just write prescriptions for them. I'm like, here you go, just take this. It'll do something.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
I kid. For the medical license, I'm just joking.
No, I mean, it's very common. A lot of our drugs are basically manufactured by incubating organisms.
Yeah.
That's very, very, very common.
That's
I guess
cool.
he's just trying to make this maybe more of a mass-produced kind of thing so that we can all maybe genetically engineer whatever organism we want to be able to create whatever chemical it is that we want. I mean, they talk about opiates, and I mean, that does have all the sort of the negative implications, but there are so many different other types of chemicals that could be quite useful.
Yeah.
So.
Plus, I don't think a junkie would go through that trouble of getting that, because the way that people
dealer would. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, if you could get like pure cocaine or something right off a pill, or right off a machine, then they'd cut the middleman. Yeah. There's also like what people do is they'll take like cannabis or the I don't know what the chemical, THC. They figured out how to make synthetic THC, and they just spray it on potpourri and sell it as fake drugs. Or not fake drugs, they sell it as real drugs at like gas stations, head shops, things like that. You guys didn't hear about this? They called it Spice for a while, K2. And this kind of relates because it's along the same lines, because people are smart enough now and they have the technology to take something like THC molecule, alter it by a little bit so it's hitting the same receptors in your brain, but it's fake. It's not coming from a plant, it's coming from a lab.
Right.
And then they take that. It's not illegal because it's just a new chemical.
Right.
So they spray it on a bunch of stuff and they tell you to smoke it, and people get really messed up on it. It's a pretty powerful, at least the K2 was and the Spice was. When I was working as a student in mental health, we had a lot of people that were on psychotic breaks from taking this fake THC. Yeah, it was pretty powerful stuff, because you can't there's no regulation. At least a plant.
I think I remember hearing something about that.
Yeah, it was everywhere. You could buy it at like a gas station. They called it like Spice or something. And then And then now I think they made laws against it. But every time they make a law, someone just changes the molecule and then sells it again. I have a guy coming on next week. His name's Joe Hollis. He's a ethnobotanist or ethnobotanicals. Oh, you know about this?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, I know. I like the topic. I don't know him.
I meant ethnobotany. So, and a lot of people don't know. And I'm what I assume I am one of them. I don't know a heck of a lot, but I think it has to do with plants. Growing plants. It's the botany part. I went to state school. What can I say? They just basically getting the medicinal properties of certain plants, not necessarily pot and LSD or mescaline or anything like that, but a wide variety of things. And I don't know, it seems pretty cool. Me being a Western medical guy, I'm really not into that sort of thing, but I also am interested in I mean, this guy's out in Asheville, out in the western part of the state. And I don't know, I've just been contacting him and he said he's going to, let's see what we have here. We have three people. Say hi, everyone.
Joining.
Thanks for joining, guys. If you're listening to this now, not live, which the majority of people do, we are doing a live broadcast on Periscope. I'm going to try to do one on Facebook, and I'm going to try to do one on, there's another one. I don't remember the name of it. It'll be easier because I'm just going to do it on the laptop here.
Well, here's where I'm silly. I thought Periscope wasn't available for Droid yet.
Oh, it is. I better be because I'm broadcasting this somewhere.
Must be new. Okay.
I just hit record. No, it's I think Twitter bought it, and so they made it. I don't know, more accessible.
Very cool.
Yeah. So printed and homemade drugs. Wave of the future.
Yes, I'm excited about that.
What else? What I was going to say, what I was going to bring this up here at the beginning is, I feel like being a Gen Xer, tail end of Gen X, some people would say the very beginning of Generation Y, but I still think I'd rather be a Gen Xer than a millennial or Y. But I feel like where we are in our mid to late 30s or early 40s, we are able to appreciate.
Thanks.
We are able to appreciate technology, I think, better than most. And I'll explain what that means. I think technology for our parents kind of came too late. I mean, they love it now,
right,
but they still need a lot of help with things. You're like, no, this is what you got to do. This is what you got to, they're getting into iPhones and things like that. But it's still, they grew up in the 60s. They had kids in the 70s and 80s, and they were too busy for this stuff, at least. And it was expensive back when they were younger. Not everyone could have internet and all that. And then we came along and we didn't have anything. We had Atari or Intellivision. We just had kind of okay stuff. But if you remember, as kids is when we started hearing about things. Remember Tom Selleck had these old commercials where like, have you ever tucked your kid in from a payphone? And it shows this guy singing to his kid on a video phone. It says, you will. And the people that bring it to you, they're old commercials.
Yeah.
And it was like, have you ever bought concert tickets from a kiosk? And it was all this like, wow, that sounds really cool.
Were those ads for AT&T?
Yeah,
right? They were all AT&T.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do you remember this?
Horrible ads.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
well, I was hearing something different. AT&T also had an ad at the same time. It was like in 1993, talking about how someday you would be able to just drive across the state, the country without a map.
Yeah,
you'd have GPS. And the ironic thing is that AT&T was not the one who brought us that technology.
They're not really. Well, they did jump on the iPhone, right? They were the only ones who held the iPhone for a while.
But I think the technology to travel across the country was around well before the iPhone came out. I believe it was like the early 2000s.
Tom and all those things.
Garmin.
Yeah. But we got to grow up and see the advancements and really, really appreciate them. We're young enough that we're motivated to, I'm doing a podcast around the world on not even a laptop, a tablet, an iPad, broadcast. These are things that are just second nature to us. Mm-hmm. And then the next generation, they're too young to appreciate not having it. So I think we're really unique in that we kind of appreciate it all, and we get to kind of experience it come in our prime, where A, we can afford the stuff, B, we can appreciate and kind of have the wherewithal or the know-how to use it. And our kids, well, who knows? We'll get into that because I got some notes on that. But
also we've learned, this new technology is coming along. I mean, is there a certain point where you reach a certain age where a new technology, completely revolutionary, comes out that you maybe can't grasp onto it as well as, say your kids can.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, is there going to be a computer or a new iPhone kind of deal when we're in our 60s or 70s where our kids are going to be going, no, let me show you how to use that,
There could be, but it's becoming easier, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, even in the 40s and the 50s, there were certain technologies that their parents were just like, maybe couldn't wrap their heads.
Telephone. Who wants to use a telephone?
You know what I mean. Right. Or, grew up on a farm and, going in the big city.
Sure.
I mean, there are certain things where just concepts, I think. I mean, we think that the computers and our phones are going to be like, that's top of the line.
Yeah.
But we might not be able to grasp onto things as they come up. I'm just saying.
Did you? Go ahead.
I think a lot of that lack of being able to grasp onto a new technology has to do with just unwillingness to try.
Right.
Because I have that. I mean, I've had to just force myself to think about how to use new tools in Excel, which is kind of embarrassing to admit. But yeah, I mean, the younger generation, I'm usually having to be taught by somebody who's in their 20s because it's very normal for them. They kind of got used to doing Excel, and it was there wasn't a big hurdle to learn something new in Excel.
I mean, they've got iPads in their classrooms now, so I mean, you're using that from that time. I mean, I remember going through a typing class when I was in school.
Oh God,
yeah. I mean, that was my extent. I mean, we had like a computer class, I think, in high school, but it was a joke compared to what they have today. Programming and such. So.
We didn't even do program. I'm hoping that my kids have at least the basic, like coding. I hope they go old school with them and be like, all right, here is C : whatever. You would know what I'm talking about more. I don't know. I don't know how to code. I don't know the first thing about coding. Yeah. I click and paste code for my website.
There's so many different codes. Which one do you teach them?
I didn't even know there was more than one code.
It's like different languages, man.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
You would teach them basic font code.
No, stop it.
I would teach them double dipper.
I would.
Triple.
That's the one to go for.
Isn't one called Linux?
An operating system.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, thank you.
One's called DOS prompt. CDOS.
Stop it.
Am I completely way off base?
Kind of close, but like way off.
Okay. Well,
my niece,
I don't tell you how
my
to do
niece
your
is
job.
being taught, like she's 7, and there's basically a game that's teaching her how to code.
That's cool.
Yeah.
There's a website too. You can look it up. It's a free website to teach yourself how to code.
That's rad.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember the name of it. If you go on a Reddit, and every now and then someone will put up. And actually, I think I saved it. So if you guys want it, maybe I'll link it to my website. But the on Reddit, someone posted, what are the best websites that people don't know about? And someone put it on there, and I looked, and it was like, teach yourself how to code, and it's free. And there's some that are like teach yourself languages. There's a bunch out there. But again, and this is all technology that this was unheard of just 10 years ago,
right?
Or maybe 15 years ago now. But the what I was trying to get at with all this is, it's always been in the next decade, in the next 50 years, in the next 10 years. I feel like over the last 2 years, it's now becoming like, hey, next year, it's coming a lot, and you can start to feel it, because even when you read news articles on stuff, it's not saying by 2050 it's like by 2020 we're going to Google wants to have cars on the road, the self-driving cars, by 2020.
Oh man,
that's only 4 years away.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah, it is a good way. I mean, I think we are all like, self-driving cars, that makes no sense. But to be honest with you, every car was self-driving, we wouldn't have these accidents.
90% fewer fatalities, they predict.
Yeah.
And the only accidents they've been into so far
are other people hitting them.
Yeah, that's right. So, and some people are like, no way, I wouldn't do it. Are you kidding? I would go.
Oh my gosh. Could you
sleep in my car on the way to work?
Forget about, you wouldn't have congestion because you don't have rubberneckers looking over the side, looking at an accident that's happened like 2 streets over.
Mm-hmm. There would be no accidents.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, you're not going to have that, everybody knows, like the computer will know how to go like a certain, merge, first of all, get into an oncoming traffic, not go 20 miles into the free lane, that sort of thing where. Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be, I think whenever they're self-driving, they're supposed to be a lot more efficient with the use of space, and that will also decrease congestion.
So they're going to like pull them in closer? Like put 6 cars in a row? Oh, what?
Yeah.
Be a little unnerving. It would be unnerving. There's a little bit of trust there.
Well, think about it. I mean, that's the thing. It's like if this car knows what this car and this car, this car and this car is, but you've also got other factors though. I mean, there's got to be a certain point where there's outside variables. Like you see the rubber, the ball jumps in the street and the kid runs after it. I mean, you know, the enough reaction time where the car has a stopping power. So I mean, there's a certain amount of time where I guess we have to assume that the car would be able to react to that, because it's the car that's going to react. I mean, we can see something off there,
but it sees all around all the time without getting tired. That's the other thing. Like we can see wherever we're looking. We can be distracted. There was an issue back in...
But there's a certain logic skill to it too. Like you can kind of see like, hey, that's acting funny. I need to focus on that. I don't know. I guess I'm saying focus, but it's always focusing on everything.
Yeah, on everything.
Maybe pick it up. I mean,
and it's that type of technology where it's predicting movement and it's doing little algorithms to figure out if something's moving towards you and it's going to hit you. I mean, we have that in aircraft. There's a thing when I was flying, it was called, and I'm going to butcher it because I don't remember what it was called, but something about vertical separation of aircraft. And it used to be you had to have so many thousands of feet and so many, like maybe a mile offset of center line. And as our traffic avoidance system or traffic collision systems became more and more high tech, basically GPS and whatever else, those corridors kind of shrunk down. So you were talking vertical separation, and if I remember right, it was like 1,000 feet, or maybe it was even 500 feet. And if you ever see an aircraft, when you're flying and you see an aircraft coming at you, 1,000 feet looks like nothing, man. It looks like it's coming right at you, and you're like, and it just goes right overhead, and you're like, wow, that was close. But now they can stack up aircraft all across the Atlantic.
Well, think about that too. I mean, if every car was self-driving and they were all connected into a larger grid, I mean, then you could really control the way traffic is going.
Control the people, man.
Exactly. Well, it'd be more like public transportation, even our individual cars.
Yeah.
You know, and just the computers are at the helm, and, you know, they're anticipating different traffic patterns. Like this road's getting a little congested. We've got too many people going this way. I don't know.
Do you like your car?
So, yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I love driving. I love my car. That's the
You
one
like
thing I don't
driving?
mind. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy it.
Do you...
I don't drive longer than an hour.
That's
if I go longer than an hour, I'm a miserable son of a bitch. But
you know, I enjoy driving now because I go to Wilson. For me, there's no traffic. Mm-hmm. It's a straight shot, and I put on some audiobooks, and it's kind of like my time.
You put on
but
the
when
Wait What
I
If
go
podcast?
to Raleigh and I'm fighting traffic, it's sort
Better.
of like no. I don't listen to it. It freaks me out.
I can't sleep at night, man.
No, man. I hear myself. I'm here. I'm there. I'm what? No. But no, I mean, like if I'm fighting traffic, it's the worst experience ever.
Right,
but
right.
like if I'm able to just kind of zone out, and that's kind of like my time, there's nobody around, I'm just relaxed, then it's enjoyable. Like you don't have a commute. You go to Smithfield. You go back
I listen to Serial podcast. Do you guys listen to that at all?
Serial?
Yeah, it's wild. That's a good podcast, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're
that
doing
was
one
good.
on Bo Bergdahl right now. Which
Oh,
she
wait,
was
they're doing another one?
Yeah, the second season's out. First one was on Adnan something. He murdered his girlfriend. Adnan, yeah. He was so guilty. When you listen to that, I'm like, oh, that dude's so guilty.
Yeah.
But the second one's on Bo Bergdahl. And this one's got me a little more heated because he was a piece of shit. You know anything about him? He's the one that walked off his post out in Afghanistan, and then they captured him and held him for 5 years.
Yeah.
And he's claiming he tried to do one thing, but he just
made no sense.
I'll go off on a tangent here forever, so we won't talk about it. But yeah, I listen to that podcast. I catch half of it here, half of it there, and it would be nicer to be like not even have to look up, just kind of look down, drink my coffee, and just head off to work. And you know what? By the time it comes up, by the time it comes up and we're 80 and who cares? But no, I mean, they're talking about in 4 years. 2020 is only 4 years away, which is enough to make your head want to explode.
So where are we going to be driving, though? Because everything's going to be in VR. We'll be able to just put on our headset and be wherever we want to be. Huh?
We need food.
A VR is another thing, though. Oh, yeah, that's
order
true.
that.
Yeah. You can't just virtual reality burgers. Everyone's emaciated. Virtual reality, that's another
That'd be
thing.
the greatest diet ever.
That's that would be. That's exploding.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you say?
Star Trek.
My Star Trek references. We just lost all our people.
Yeah,
there they go.
sorry.
They're dumping out right now. Yeah,
Virtual reality.
Yeah. When I had this, I was looking on there, and I'm pointing now to my
The Oculus Rift.
Yeah, no. Well, that's pretty cool. The problem with the Oculus Rift, I was reading today that only 13 million computers worldwide which isn't that many worldwide, have enough power to run an Oculus Rift.
Now, the PlayStation 4 is coming out with their own version.
Yeah, which is cool. So they're
Yes.
starting to create it. But yeah, I think that's going to be the next big thing of entertainment.
Have you ever done virtual reality?
Yeah, well, I've done it on my Samsung with my Google Cardboard.
Okay.
And it's enough that it'll make you feel sick to your stomach.
Yes.
And it's kind of cool. There's this, there's an app called, I don't remember the name off the top of my head, but there's an app where they just film 3D movies or little shorts, like 5 minutes long. And one of them is, it makes you fly over New York City and you're standing there and you're like, because as you look around it, you can see the buildings and it gives you that feeling of dropping. And another one, you're in a wheelchair and they're pushing you through a psycho ward, but it's like haunted. There's like people like bleeding and jumping out at you, and it's pretty cool because you sit in the chair and you look around, and there's a guy pushing you behind you, and you feel his presence behind you because your mind, it's just a big mind fuck. I can say that now. Yes. You look the other way, and same thing, and it's crazy. And when you're talking about on the Samsung, it's like crap VR, but it's still pretty cool, and it just tells you where things are going to go. I can't only imagine what the Oculus Rift will look like.
Well, virtual reality's been around for a while, but it just suddenly taking off again.
Yeah.
I remember it.
I think they're figuring it out.
But it never went anywhere.
Yeah, well, because they just didn't have the technology.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That's the thing. I remember doing it like at a Dave and Buster's in the 90s, and it was nauseating. It was cool, but at the same time, it was like, get me out of here.
I remember doing something, and it was like 90s sort of computer technology.
Yeah.
So it was like lasers and stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is dumb.
It was like Tron.
Actually, when we did, we had to re-qualify for parachute landings in the Air Force. And they actually, and this was 2005, they actually had a setup. We had to go into a harness and you wore virtual reality goggles and you had to steer yourself to land. So yeah, they did. But it was, remember those old flight simulators where the grass was just green?
Yeah.
And the ground was brown, and it was just like that, and the sky's blue. So you had like 3 colors to work with.
Land on the aircraft carrier.
Yeah. It was just like that.
Okay.
Yeah. But nowadays, you got to check it out. Well, if you have the Samsung, you have the S5?
I do.
Yeah. Get a Google Cardboard for like $5.
I know. I've done it.
Oh, you have Google Cardboard?
Yeah, I did like a roller coaster. I haven't heard of these apps though that you're talking about.
They have thousands of apps now. I'll tell you that when we get off so I can look on my phone. But yeah, whatever the app is for the movie thing, that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, and most of it, it's very rudimentary. You're not, it's like little quick 5-minute things. The games aren't really games. They're just, you look around, but it does make your stomach drop.
I go to these RTP VR meetups.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a whole meetup group for virtual reality.
So you're way into
a complete
this.
loser, so I go to the meetups.
You are super geek, aren't you?
I'm just a loser. But
wait a minute.
dork,
You belong to a VR meetup, and you guys actually go there?
Exactly. Isn't that defeating the purpose?
Yeah.
Well, we all don't have the actual technology, but there will be somebody who has access to an Oculus Rift, and you go, and they'll have some sort of demo for you to try.
Yeah.
And I did this one demo where it just basically took you towards through different scenes. So maybe you were out in a very beautiful sort of mountainous and wooded and sort of fantasy-ish kind of scene landscape, and then it would kind of transport you to a different kind of landscape, like maybe you were in a big city, and then everything was kind of changing around you. So maybe you looked off to the right, and then as you were looking to the right, all the landscape or the scenery on the left would change.
Cool.
And at one point, I was in a basically maybe a wooded lodge. And so you're in this kitchen. It's kind of neat. You're looking around at maybe the food in the kitchen and things like that, and the decorations. And then the walls start kind of coming in on you. And you look around to the left, and they're closer. And then you look to the right, it's even closer. And I almost threw it off.
Yeah.
That's how into it. I couldn't believe why. I knew that I was in a headset, but for some reason I couldn't handle it. I really felt like the walls were going to crush
Everything's
me.
telling your brain. Your brain is what judges your reality. And as long as that's telling you that you're going to die, you're going to react to it. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So. Although I did keep them on because I was too embarrassed.
Yeah.
Because there were other people watching.
You can watch on Google or on YouTube. You can watch people just freak out on them. They fall out of their chairs or they scream and jump around. But yeah, was there any lag or anything with it, or was it very quick and?
It was quick enough to fool me. I could tell that it was fake. It was sort of cartoony, but they're working on that. It's going to get even better.
Yeah.
the micropixelation will get even more.
Sure.
4K.
What's that?
If it gets 4K,
Oh yeah.
Wow.
It's gonna be even better.
They have like 7K now, don't they?
12K, I think.
The Alexa S65. So I watched the movie The Revenant. Revenant.
Here we go.
The Irreverent. Yeah. I think we talked about this last time.
Yes, we did.
So let's just say before the Oscars come out, I like to watch all the nominations, but I don't go to the theater.
See,
That's
you
all I'm
think
saying.
I'm a dork.
Yeah, I do. I like movies, but some of them I can't watch. I'm like, what's this? Some foreign film about some baby who gets lost. No, I'm not going to watch that. But Revenant, yeah, I'm going to watch that. The guy kills a grizzly bear with a knife. It's really good, but it's filmed. And I think maybe it is 7K or maybe it's 12K, whatever it is. When you watch it, you're like, it looks like. First of all, everyone was talking about how DiCaprio gets raped by a bear. Yeah, that doesn't happen. I was watching. I'm like, this isn't a bear rape scene. The bear is eating him, but everyone was all over the internets saying it's a bear rape scene. People even walked out of the theater. But when I watched it, unless they changed it, it's no. The bear's just mauling him, and it's pretty damn gruesome. And it's like ultra realistic, ultra high def, and the camera they use is this really wide angle, and it's just an incredible, great movie. That was kind of a tangent. So something else you sent me was the cyber plants. I thought that one was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because when I first read it, I'm like, so they're fake plants. Who gives a shit? But the more you read it, well, explain it.
Well, so I actually don't have the article here with me,
Okay.
but I believe that they developed some sort of material. I don't know what the nature of that material is. That's sort of the ingenious part about it, the innovative part about it. And this material, I guess, they're able to kind of inject it into this plant, and it kind of forms veins. So
Right.
it kind of follows the line of the plant vein.
Right.
And so you essentially have this electronic plant.
Yeah. That's what I was kind of getting. It sucks up the chemical, and it brings it through its tubules.
Well, sort of like
microtubules.
when you put like celery in food coloring.
Yes,
Something like that.
that's
it
exactly
comes
right.
through. Yeah.
I think somewhat right.
Yes. No.
Well, yeah, except this is a very
I mean,
structured food coloring.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just saying. I mean, but like going through the
That's a good
veins, sort of
analogy.
like
Yeah.
But then the chemical that goes in there, then it becomes, isn't it like they can tap into the plant's or basically it's picking up photosynthesis, creating energy, and you can tap that plant's energy. So basically you're stealing the plant's power, like a power plant type of deal. Or you can
communicate with the plant a little bit better. You can maybe sense the plant. If, like, let's say I don't know, this is just me making stuff up, but let's say you have a crop and you want to see how healthy the crop is.
Right.
If you could check it on your iPhone.
just download
Although
it.
I think there are other applications. I think there are other ways to do that.
I didn't even think of that, though. You could see what the moisture content or what the
Yeah.
nitrogen content is of the soil. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Well, that you can just do with a sensor. You just do that right now.
Oh.
You put a sensor into
But this
the
is
soil.
cooler.
Yeah.
Well,
but
what
my
I
way
really
is-
liked about the article is that I thought that'll be really cool whenever we can inject ourselves with an analogous kind of material, because I would love to be electronic bionic Savanna. I mean, I think that would be really rad. I made that up. Maybe it'll never happen. But who knows?
So basically, same thing. Your cells take up whatever this chemical is.
Your veins.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So what
lines
are the
your
benefits
arteries.
of it?
What's that?
What are the benefits of it?
Well, I'm not sure. Maybe I would have better sensing capabilities about wireless, about the energy fields around me.
Like we could tap into.
So you would inject yourself and become rubberized just so you get good Wi-Fi.
Exactly.
She's like,
yes, I would.
Over
And
here's
that's
good.
what a true futurist does.
That's right. Wow. No, that's pretty cool. What made me think about, or what I thought was kind of telling about that whole thing about the plants was where people worry about super AI. So people are, the whole idea is if you have a super, and if you need any refreshers, go back to, I don't remember what episode it is, but we talk about AI. I think I was with you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically you have 3 levels of AI. Basic, which we have now with Siri and all that. Generalized, which is like another human, and then super. So this is like a god, something really. And then the idea is if something becomes a super AI, that it can say, hey, do you know what? These humans are just screwing everything up. Why don't I just wipe them out? And then, I need energy, and I'm super brain here, so I can figure out a way to turn asphalt into energy by sending out little micro or nanobots to chew it up and turn it into the energy I need. And I listen to all that, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. But if you start injecting your crops and making them part, you're basically tapping them into the network, and your animals and your livestock and yourself, now it's starting to make a little more sense.
Well, if you consider that everything is connected via the internet, once you have a super entity, it's global.
Okay.
I mean, isn't it its consciousnness? Couldn't that be considered global? So
because
like if I create it here, it's in Africa already.
Unless you figure out a way to stop it, like build it in a cage. But the idea there is, I was thinking it would be impossible for it to get out.
I've seen 3 of these movies, by the way.
You have? Did you see I think it's pronounced Ex
Machina.
Machina, yeah. Did you see it?
No, actually,
that's a good one.
That one.
I think it's on Netflix right now. It's really good.
Is it good? Okay.
Yeah. But you're right. Basically, it's going to get out there. But I was always thinking, how would it get out of, like, all right, we don't want the big bad computer in here. Let's cut the switches. Let's just cut our lines, and now he's not in this house. But if everything in the next 20 years becomes integrated, our walls, like I said, our pets, our grass. Oh, the grass isn't looking green. Let me just do a little code here. Oh, now it's perfect. It'll be able to get into all that, and maybe even into our minds if people are injecting themselves with this stuff.
Possibly.
And what's even crazier about that?
Well, if it's able to get into my mind because I'm somehow connected, then I'm probably fairly super intelligent myself at that point in time. And so maybe I could develop the code to fight it off, kind of like Neo.
It'll be like 6 steps ahead.
I was thinking that. That was one of the movies I was talking about.
I mean, it's something to think about. And
well, also like a mass consciousness. I mean, if we're all connected and our minds are all connected, I mean, you could talk about, mass consciousness.
How to
like
fight
a hive
against
kind
it.
of deal, yeah. Well, I mean, also, who's to say that we wouldn't become the AI?
Well, there's this woo-woo idea that we are all part of one consciousness, yeah. Well, they just discovered in mice. This one I read about today, trying to get ready for the show. So we know that brain impulses are sent via synaptic junctions. So when you have when you have a nerve and they come together, or 2 nerve cells and they come together, they don't actually touch. They're very, very close to each other. And little chemicals on one side come out of the, there's 2. Do you remember what the names? What's that?
The bouton. The synaptic bouton.
Yeah, I didn't know that was called
the
a
part
bouton.
that releases the.
Yeah.
I thought it was.
No, it could be. I don't
releases
remember.
the neurotransmitter.
Yeah, and it's literally a chemical. So our whole brain, everything works by chemical transmission. You're one into your axon.
There's electrical gradients involved as well, which I think also we never ever take into account.
That's right, and that's what they're talking about. Is they're picking up now that this isn't totally chemical, a total chemical process. That there's actually a very low electric field that plays a role in thoughts and behaviors and whatever. And they're picking this up on mice. So the idea there is, it was a little more exciting to read about, but then after you got towards the end of it, it's like, so we can, tap into what's causing epilepsy and migraines and whatever. And that's kind of cool. But I thought if we can electrically tap into what a mouse is thinking, cheese. But if we can tap into, then would we be able to do that eventually with ourselves?
I'm sure we would, to an extent. I mean, if we could get to that level where you could, tap in to see what kind of electricity is going on in your brain. I mean,
just to map out the pattern.
I think they're already doing that with like dreams and stuff like that. I know they're doing you might have to have a head device on kind of deal where they can map that out, but I believe that they're pretty close or working on that kind of deal.
You could take a catatonic person and see if there actually is thought.
Right. Like in a coma, we always wonder, is that person actually awake? Are they hearing everything, or are they completely out?
Yeah.
Like, can they just not react to the outside world, or are they asleep right now?
Yeah.
So
I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Seth Shostak. He's the director of SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. He says, so we're moving on. He says,
Segue.
Our offspring will eventually be as different from us as dogs are to wolves. what he was saying there is that once we're able to master physiology on the molecular level, now we mastered it, I guess, in the sense that we know how things work, but we haven't mastered how to manipulate, how to change. We use drugs, and drugs are kind of a way to, take a hammer to different diseases. But nothing is refined. Nothing is very laser perfect, because we give someone a drug, and that's why we have side effects, because it's not. He says once we master physiology at the molecular level, we'll be able to cure all diseases, and we'll be able to manipulate genes, basically genes, cellular biology, and create designer babies. And you brought this up, which this is the reason why I went on this article here, is because you brought this up in one of our podcasts. So on the surface, it seems evil because, I want little blonde-haired, blue-eyed babies or whatever. And that's, eugenic. I mean, that's not a very good thing to do. But in the same sense, let's say that the Earth is doomed. And let's say that, who knows, even a comet's coming down to kill us or whatever. You can genetically alter someone to exist in zero gravity, or exist on the surface of Mars or the surface of Moon. And we don't just have space stations up there. We can actually colonize it and have people that are perfectly fine and adequate to survive.
Have you seen The Expanse?
Mm-mm.
Oh, have you seen it?
No.
Oh, it's a new sci-fi series where they're talking about people who are like in the asteroid belt and people, on Mars and stuff like that. And the people who've been on the belt are, can't survive on Earth anymore. It's pretty cool, actually.
So it's kind of along these lines.
Yeah.
So what he was getting at with that, and I think that's kind of cool, is that the search for extraterrestrial beings might actually just be here. In the next extraterrestrial, meaning out of this Earth, might be just our genetic cousins that we alter in our own way. We say, screw evolution, let's just do it ourselves. And he said that our what do you call that? Our prodigy? No, our
progeny.
Progeny, thanks. State school. Our progeny are going.
Well, I mean, if we genetically alter them, they will be prodigies.
Yes, that's right. And they will be as different to us as wolves are to dogs. I thought that was a wild concept.
I think that's interesting that he thinks wolves and dogs are that different, that they're as different as a parent to a gravity-resistant child.
Well, yeah, I guess, they are, because look at Winston, my 12-pound Yorkie, compared to an actual gray wolf. Put them out, and they both have teeth, they both have fur.
Winston could do some damage.
Yeah, Winston could do some to my carpets. That's about it. I don't know if the gray wolf has such a weak stomach as my dog, and apparently his penchant for shitting all over the place. But he is 12 and partially blind.
Aww.
Yeah. So what else you got?
Okay, so we actually talked about, I think the first time that I came to do the podcast.
Yeah.
We were talking about drones, and I made a comment about drones that could maybe carry people.
Yeah.
And you made a very astute point that that's essentially a helicopter.
Yeah.
And I agree.
Yeah, okay.
But interestingly, at CES 2016, they now have a drone that can carry a human. It's basically, it looks like a lot like a...
That is pretty cool.
That is a self-driving helicopter.
Yeah, it's a helicopter. It's like a self-driving car.
Yeah.
Yes. So I had to point that out because
I saw that too. Again, what's really cool about this stuff is that the way technology expands or grows exponentially is that this stuff, even if they're just ideas, even if they're just, hey, look, I can make a drug in a thing that I have in my living room. In 50 years and 100 years, that stuff's going to be just mastered because we have the ability to. Not like in 1851 where we said, someday we'll be able to send a message across the entire country in 4 days, with the new Pony Express. No, it's stuff that is right around the corner. And given time and given the technology that we have now and the technology that we're going to have, this stuff is going to be everywhere, which is kind of cool. It's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
Because I can't wait to be an old guy and just be like, get in my drone and just fly around somewhere.
Make my medicine at home.
Yeah. Just get really high and go sit in a drone.
Exactly.
Program it and be like, what's Grandpa doing? I made acid on a... He's not even in a drone. He's in his lazy boy. Yeah. So we covered cyber plants. We covered home pharmacology. Did you see the thing about artificial trees? Did you send me that, or did I send you that?
No, I don't even remember it.
So artificial trees, they want to pull CO2 out of the atmosphere. The catch is it takes like 10,000 trees to take out, or maybe it was 10 million trees to take out 0.5, what is it? 1 part per million. So a half a part per million of CO2 out of the air, which is nothing. I mean, so it's like they're putting a lot of technology into this. It's basically, it's like it's like
terraforming.
Yeah, well, it's like a mesh type of material, or they think they could do it like a mesh type of material. As the wind blows through it, it picks up the CO2, and then it stores it into like solid. I think it was some sort of, maybe it was a bicarbonate or something like that.
This is very familiar.
Yeah.
I don't know about this story in particular, but I know that there was actually, they called the person an artist, but it was somebody who had actually designed a tower that would just remove smog from the air and then convert it to something useful. I can't remember what the useful product was.
Yeah.
And they acted like it was just a concept, but I'm thinking, put these in every city. I would buy one. I would buy like a little mini one for my house.
Yeah. Is your house smoggy?
Yeah, I remember there was
Can't see your
something where
TV.
there was like some kind of, I don't know, like a noise wave or something like that, where it turned the particles and made them heavy enough where they would fall to the ground.
Oh, isn't that like one of those ozone machines?
Maybe. It was a while ago. I remember seeing something.
Was it
like that where-
infomercial late at night?
No.
You can turn your house into...
Sounds like a bug zapper.
Yeah, I know. But it
Molecule.
was something. It was talking about like coal plants and stuff like that, and taking, Anyway.
I don't know if it's worth it at this point. So, and this is a weird thing. You have to tread on very, very... What is it? Tread on eggshells? No. What's the saying?
Yeah.
Thin water, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Thin ice?
Thin
Tread on
ice.
thin
Thin
ice?
ice.
Yeah.
You have to be very, very careful because of the
We
way...
haven't even been drinking here.
I know,
Like, this is sad.
It's the end of the day.
It's Thursday.
We need to do a morning podcast.
Oh, God, that would have
no.
been worse.
That'd be
Yeah.
horrible. What do you want?
Yeah.
Coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, you have to be careful, because nowadays, if you dare speak about anything, because you're a scientist, I like to consider myself a scientist. You're just an IT guy,
yeah.
but that's science.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
You're skeptic, which
There
is
you go. Yeah, I know.
In order, like, science is about asking questions, and it's about saying, hey, you know what? I'm not really sure that is 100%, or even if it is 100%, what about this? Or what about that? And when it comes to things like, and the reason why I'm thinking about this is these artificial trees, where you say, do we really want to put that time and energy into taking CO2 out of the atmosphere when, are we sure that that's really what's fucking everything up? Like, we know, and again, this is why I said, and I'm not a hardcore conservative about this. I'm a libertarian, so I'm more of just stay out of my pockets, and I'm a happy type of guy. But and I look at it this way. Let's say you go to a lake every year, and you notice that the lake is rising. Let's say you're like, hey, last year the beach was a little bit bigger. Now it's smaller. And so you say, hey, let's study this. And you're looking at the lake, and you're like, all right, things are changing. The water's coming up. And I notice that there's these kids sitting around, and they're all throwing rocks into the water. You know, kids skip in the water. And you're like, well, let's do an experiment. Let's take that rock. I'll put it in a glass, and I'll see what it does to the water. So you do that, and you go, the water level rose. Okay. Well, if you're putting rocks into the water and the water level rises, and I go to this place, and in the last 2 years, the water level rose, it's got to be these kids.
Yeah.
They can't be throwing rocks in the water.
That's a really good analogy.
It is.
Did you come up with that?
I did. No, actually,
So
I wrote it
who's
down.
throwing
today.
rocks into the ocean?
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing about that. So CO2, and I looked at the numbers, and this is what, because I was like, this can't be right. CO2 changes, I think we're at 400 parts per million right now in the atmosphere, which it's been up to 4,000, 8,000 parts per million in the past. So we're at that level, and it goes up by, I think, 1 part per million each year. So next year, 401, I don't know. An easier way to explain that would be take a pond that has 100,000 rocks in it, and every 10 years, you throw one more rock into the pond. And then every 20 years with these trees, you're taking out a half a rock, right? So is that really the full picture? And if you ever ask that question, you're considered a heretic in this new religion of climate change that says, no, it's CO2 and CO2. And yes, putting rocks into the water it is causing it to rise. Fact, it's causing it to rise. But if you look at the lake and you say, hey, do you know what? Let's say it's in Colorado. The Rockies had a lot of snow last year. And this year it's been warm. In the last 2 years it's been warm. They've had a lot of melt. So you take the snow plus the melt and, the tributaries are putting a little bit more in here. And the last 3 years have been a little bit warmer. Warmer causes water to expand. You get thermal expansion. That's causing it to rise. Except we've had overfishing in this lake and now the fish numbers are down. So that causes it, there's so much else to look in. And I'm afraid that when people say, all right, let's put all our time and energy into a tree that can suck out CO2 out of the air, are we focusing on the wrong thing?
Right. That's a really good point.
And this I was just going to say, and this is, we know where technology and all that's going. And this is really, over the next 50 years, this is going to say what we're going to do, what we're going to buy, what legislation is going to pass, what wars are going to be fought. It's all going to be about this. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to kind of make a tangential point that I kind of wonder, okay, what should I put my money in? I could put a lot of money into this one tech, but then, and maybe so here's the example. Here's the anecdote. There was a sewage treatment system that was set up, I think, in DC recently. And I was reading about it and they say, oh man, the system is really, I guess it's the state of the art now. And we're going to be able to pay it off over the next, I think they said literally 30 years.
Okay.
And the first thing that pops in my head is there's probably going to be a tech in the next 5 to 10 years that's going to weigh.
And you're still paying for the old one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's not the same point, but it kind of
it is because
reminded me of it.
Yeah, because if all the science isn't there, and it's funny that in a free society, I'm nervous to actually say that, you know what, it might not just be the CO2. Is it the CO2? Sure, just like it is the rocks going, but it's not. That's not the sole thing. It isn't.
Well, when did we really start paying attention to global warming? How many years ago was it?
Well, it's been going on now for 150 years.
No. I'm talking about us actually saying, hey, it was
200
Gore,
years.
Right?
Yeah, Gore.
What I'm
There's a
talking
little
about,
movie there.
when we actually started paying attention, scientists actually start. Well,
oh yeah, Silent Spring. Silent Spring, written by I don't remember her name. It was a book written in like the 60s, maybe.
Well,
69.
that's the thing also, where people were talking about it was the end of the world in the 80s and 70s, and
and it was about birds disappearing or something.
Right.
Which that's actually kind of good news. I like to hear how
birds are
freaked
disappearing.
out. No,
those little bastards.
I like to hear
Stupid
how
birds.
scared people have been over the years.
Yeah.
Because I always am inclined to think it's the end of the world.
It's always the
now.
end of the world.
Yeah.
It was 2000. The ball dropped, and I was still there. I was like, thank goodness.
I know. Y2K. I was ready.
Like, wow. I was like, okay. I think I've told everybody. My will's good. It's like,
3, 2, 1. Everyone was like 3, 2, 1.
yeah.
The year with an
and
extra
the
second.
Aztecs, and they're like, man, I can't deal with this end of the world every other day.
Oh yeah, that's right. December 21st.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what they said about that was
It was just the end of the calendar.
Yeah. It's the end of like an epoch, however you pronounce it. It's like the Aztecs saw, or it was the Mayans, saw these different times, and it's really we're just basically in another time. It doesn't mean time ends. It was just a switch over. So, yeah. And I got. Have you ever heard of Randall Carlson? Check out Joe Rogan Experience. Do Joe Rogan Experience Randall Carlson and listen to some of his talks. Everyone calls him a climate denier because he dare ask questions like that about. I think he uses the fish tank version. He says you have a fish tank with 100,000 fish and you add one every 10 years. That's basically what you're doing. And but he brings up some really fascinating things. And I'm reading. Well, I'm not reading right now. I actually used my free Audible.
Nice.
You sign up, you get a free one. Magicians of the Gods. And this guy is Graham Hancock. He's really interesting. I think he wrote Sex at Dawn, which is another crazy book. But he talks about really that we think of today's society, or we think of modern society being roughly 6,000 years old. Maybe it's 8,000, 6,000. Or at least that's when first humans were like, hey, let's build temples and do all that stuff. But he proposes that, no, we're like 12,000 years old, or maybe even 20,000 years old, because he looked at Göbekli Tepe. It's like our second or third podcast. We talked about Göbekli Tepe. And then he basically goes in and says climate change, back 12,800 years ago, happened instantaneous because a comet came down. And we should probably be spending our time saying, how are we going to deal with comets when they start, if and perhaps when they slam into the planet? Because they have in the past. And there's nothing saying that they won't in the future. It could happen now. It could happen in 10,000 years. We don't know. That's the thing about it.
Yeah, there's always something somebody's panicking about. Global warming. I mean, they're talking about comets and everything else like that hitting the Earth.
Yeah.
Global warming is one thing where there is some reason to think maybe it won't.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually exist.
Yeah.
But comets, there's no reason to believe that we're protected. It could absolutely happen anytime.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's always a threat. So that's something that if I was going to put money down, I would say, all right, well, let's put an investment in that.
Yeah. And see what we can
But I
do.
mean,
Saving us from that.
look at the odds. I mean, when was the last time we got hit with something big enough where it actually caused an impact to the point where it caused a mass extinction?
They think 12,800 years ago, right? At the beginning, what they call the Younger Dryas, where the Earth was warming up, and then instantly it got cold again for like a couple thousand years. And they think that was why. 75% of all large mammals in North America died, gone. That's why we don't have woolly mammoths or anything big. But Africa was spared, and that's why there's still big animals in Africa. But yeah, it's a fascinating book, and he puts down a lot of evidence, and you're like, wow, this is really, really cool. So if you have time to check it out. Now I'm going to get flamed all over Facebook. Climate denier! Listen, I'm not a climate denier. I'm far from it. I think it's really changed in the past, and it'll probably change in the future. I'm just saying, I don't think I have as big a part in it as all the hippies say I do, but that's just me.
Hippies.
Coming from the guy that I like to chill out and think about weird things. Anything? What do you got?
I got nothing.
What's going on in technology?
Stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Bitcoin.
I know, right?
Blockchain. What's all about? What's that?
What happened to Bitcoin?
Eh.
So I think you should have a podcast. I don't know if you can edit this out, but I think you should have a podcast talking about blockchain.
I don't know anything about
Bitcoin.
blockchain. I know
all the
Bitcoin.
cryptocurrencies,
Yeah.
and all of the implications, all of the possibilities with that.
Yeah.
I think they're quite transformative.
It's a currency now. I mean, people are trading it. Again, there's a good future.
Yeah,
thing about
ransoms.
it.
It's all about Bitcoins now.
Ransom? Oh, yeah. That makes sense because you can't trace. Well, I guess you could trace their.
Yeah. And
But if you go down
a thing where they're like somebody, if they get their computer locked out and they can't get to their files, that's the currency that they look for.
That happened to me. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. Someone, I don't know. I got
He was browsing some sites he shouldn't have. and,
It was at work. It was actually on
even better.
on my work computer, and all of a sudden it was like this thing just went across my screen, and I couldn't access anything. And it was like, "Oh, you want your files back? Pay up, bitch!" And I'm like, "What? What?" I had to pay like $500 to get. So
Did you have to pay in Bitcoin?
no, I ended up finding a workaround to it.
How did you do that?
Yeah, I had to go through and delete where all the files were located that were causing this.
Oh, you didn't pay.
No. And then I backed up my computer. So like what's that called? Like your computer saves itself at certain points.
Like you back
restored it.
Restored it.
Yeah, for like 2 months ago or whatever. And so I lost everything I had done in 2 months, but it's better than losing everything. But this thing can get like into your Dropbox and just lock out all your pictures. Yeah, it's nasty. And then you know, people pay $500 and says, "Oh, just kidding, $5,000." If he's going to pay $500, he'll pay. Yeah, so it was bad. But
There's actually a podcast that the really popular podcast that talks all about that.
is that what it's called? The really popular podcast?
No, it's
Oh.
the one it's one of the more popular podcasts, and I'm forgetting the name of it. I'll figure it out in a second.
I'm going to real quick because this is probably heating up, and we're down to one listener, so we're going to say goodbye. Say goodbye, everyone, on this.
Bye, everybody.
All right.
Bye,
stop
person.
broadcast. All right. Pretty cool.
Radiolab.
Yeah, Radiolab's pretty cool.
They did a podcast on that.
On the Bitcoin or on the currency or the
the whole yeah. And usually
they
they require Bitcoin. I think it's like the Russians that are doing it.
Really?
Yeah.
So do you know what Bitcoin is?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it. I mean, I really haven't studied on.
It's basically, I thought about it once because I was reading about it. I'm like, this is awesome. And then I was like, I want to mine Bitcoin. Because it's basically, you have a set number of, picture it like a coin, like a gold coin. But it's really a transaction. It's like easier way to say is a coin, okay? And if your computer is powerful enough to solve basically a puzzle, an algorithm, then you can get out a certain amount of coins, like let's say 25 or something like that. And the key is, though, that these algorithms are extremely difficult. So you need a powerful computer that can run this quickly, that can mine as many coins as possible. But it also has to be more powerful than it's eating electricity, because it takes time and it takes all that. It's not something you can just use your iPad and mine Bitcoin. So people had rooms. I don't know if they still have them. Rooms full of liquid cooled machines and everything. And they were mining lots and lots of the stuff that are worth. I mean, it went from worthless to worth millions. People made a lot of money on it.
It's $400 a coin now.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wow. I think I have some Bitcoin. I have a Bitcoin wallet.
You're a rich man.
Called. Yeah. I only have like 2 or 3 of them, but still, I think I traded them at not much, maybe $20 a coin or something a long time ago.
I keep hearing that you got to find a way to keep them secure. So
because it's like any money. Yeah. Each one is.
But it's even worse, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, than having money in a bank. I think my bank money is secure, but I get the strong impression that from people who know about Bitcoin that you really got to make sure that's
because you got to look who's mining it. It's people that know a lot about computers, and a lot of the stuff is on the dark web. So like Tor and Onion browsers and stuff. Underneath it, they're going on there and be like, hey, can I? There's like Hitman on the dark web, and there's and everything is traded via electronic currency or whatever.
Have you ever talked about Russ Ulbricht or the Dread Pirate Roberts? Mm-mm. The guy who was busted, I think maybe 2 years ago.
Oh, is he the Silk Road guy?
For supposedly running the Silk Road.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to hear that story. There's so one of the guys, Bill or Ted, one of them, not the Keanu Reeves one, but the other one, that actor.
Yeah.
He actually went on to make a really great documentary.
Yeah, that's what I heard. He was on Joe Rogan too. Check him out.
Well, I think that's where I heard about him. Mm-hmm. He was talking about a whole documentary he was doing on Russ Ulbricht. Mm-hmm. And I think I got the strong impression that maybe that guy really didn't do anything. And this is all a huge... he was essentially framed by the authorities.
Conspiracy to set him up.
It's kind of an interesting conspiracy. And I've heard it again. I downloaded a bunch of Bitcoin podcasts because I'm strangely obsessed.
Yeah, no, it's interesting stuff.
And there was another Bitcoin host who is all about freeing Russ Ulbricht and proving him innocent. It's really interesting.
Because how guilty can you be when you just, let's say, I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna have to watch the podcast or the documentary because I'm talking out my ass. I don't know exactly, but how guilty can you be if you just host the site? It's not your, whatever people do on here is their thing. Like, how guilty can you be for that? Unless you're.
Well, I think they busted him on trying to hit somebody. Like they
kill somebody.
Supposedly he took out a hit. That was the charge.
Yeah, that's
he just fell on my knife in my room.
Wow.
No, but I mean, actually, that's one of the things is you're accountable if somebody does something bad on your company grounds. Mm-hmm. You're accountable for anything they do. So if you don't have control over what's going on in your business, you're accountable for it.
Makes sense, I guess.
So if they use your server to attack somebody else and you're just blind to it, you can be accountable.
I mean,
to an extent. I mean, they might not go nuts, but something to the effect where there's underground dealings going on and you're just turning a blind eye. Yeah, you can be. Yeah,
if you check out so Joe Rogan had him, and I can't remember his name. It is Ted. It's not Bill, or no, is it Bill? Whoever, you're right. Whoever's not Keanu Reeves. I don't remember his name, but it's Joe Rogan. Alex, that's
something.
Right. Oh, gosh. I love that movie.
Alex
Gotta save the princesses.
Trebek? No, Alex. Hold on. I'm going to actually look right here. I was, we almost made it through this whole podcast without any silent time that I'm going to have to go back and edit out. But now I have to do this. So you guys talk amongst yourselves.
That's funny.
Bill and
Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Alex Winter.
I was at least right about the first name.
Yeah. So check out Alex Winter's documentary.
What did he do after that?
He made documentaries.
Yeah,
He's actually kind of a
done a
cool
lot.
dude.
Is he?
He did a lot of like, I don't even know. Just Google him and read him.
Okay. Not going to happen.
Check out the podcast. It's really cool. Joe Rogan, Alex Winter. So you have homework. Check out, first of all the Wait What If podcasts, which, by the way, we are now on YouTube.
Bam.
Yeah. I don't know what my YouTube channel is, but if you do Wait What If, it'll come up, and it's a pain in the ass to get the shows on there. But I figured out how to do it. So I'm trying to go ahead.
Is it possible to post some of these links to YouTube, or is there somewhere somebody can go to have?
Yeah.
I don't want to
email
put you
them
on
to
the
me.
spot.
I'll throw them up. Or what do you mean? Like,
No, like if somebody's listening and they want to read more about, 'cause
Yes.
they don't really trust what we're saying for some odd reason.
You can
is
go
there
to
a place
the-
we can put these links?
you can put them on
Hashtag.
hashtag WWI. So Leslie is working with me to market my brand.
Mentioned that I say something about that.
Oh, she did?
Yes, she
Yeah. So we have to hashtag WWI podcast. So if you do anything on Twitter or any of those other things,
The Twitter.
if you're using the Twitter or the face space, you want to do hashtag WWI
I'm still on MySpace. So
podcast.
me and some other guy. It's
You
weird.
and what's his name? The Backstreet Boy there. Justin Timberlake. Didn't he buy it?
Yeah,
he doing it?
That's a
I
good
think he was
investment.
promoting it.
Oh, okay.
Maybe he did put some investment into it.
He is
yeah.
cool though. I gotta hand it to him. Justin Timberlake is pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna blow up because he was behind
Yeah,
it, but nobody
nope.
paid attention, unfortunately.
No one see. I got rid of
It was too late.
Facebook. I have it for my podcast, but I don't. It's so nice when you don't use it for like 3 weeks. You're like, "Ugh, I don't give a shit about anyone. No, I'm kidding. But no, you really
But
like.
there's their birthday. I have to say something.
Yeah, I only go in there to promote this thing, and then I go to my website and I find that people are flaming me because the levels are too low. And then I wrote back just.
I've never
nasty.
heard this term "flaming."
I
you.
haven't either. He just
Oh.
made it up, actually.
This is
Oh,
very
that's that's a Reddit term. I'm a
Is it?
Redditor,
Oh.
so I do a lot of my. You have your Chan, isn't that one like a big?
4chan.
Yeah, 4chan. That's like a big forum where
I
people.
thought they were like a forum. Okay. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
It's like I don't know. It's like I don't know. I've never been on it, but I know that people. You can either be on that side of things, you can go on the Reddit side of things, or there's probably other things that I don't even know about. I don't know. But in Redditor, if someone goes on there and trashes you, you say, "Why'd you flame me?" Hey, it's what us kids are using, 40-year-old man. Don't
I was
trust
gonna
anyone
say,
over 40.
I would never say that to somebody.
Well, now I learned today that that's a dorky thing to say, and I will no longer say it. So,
Yeah, that person was flaming me.
yeah. Oh, all right. Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
it sounds a little weird when you hear it, but in my head, I was picturing
Yeah.
the flames.
Just fire.
Yeah, it made sense. But I wrote to her and I was like, "Well, how dare you
Stop flaming me.
die?"
I mean, it's really the best when you get haters.
That was your one
I've heard.
listener,
Yeah.
by the way.
Oh, wait. So it's good to get haters. What's that?
That was your one listener.
Yeah.
You've just lost your audience.
Yeah, that's right. It's gone. Right, is she from Iran? I have one listener from Iran. Free our hostages, you bastards. What else? That's about it. Should we end this?
I guess so.
I actually got to work.
You do? You're going to work right now?
I got to do something. It'll be quick. But
IT never
I know.
never
Never
sleeps.
stops.
All right, so check out our new YouTube hashtag. If you're ever going to say anything to me, good or bad, then we'll just get into an argument.
It's not like I live behind you or anything.
Yeah, that's right. It was you.
Yes, he was.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
Like us on Facebook.com/WWI podcast and at WWI podcast on Twitter. Drop us a line at waitswhatifpodcast@yahoo.com. Listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, or TuneIn Internet Radio. hope you enjoyed your listening experience. Now go forth and expand your reality.